Hello, hello, writers. Welcome to the Memoir Breakthrough Mini Training. I am so excited to present this and for you to have it in your inbox because I see writers at very specific points in their creative process. Usually, when I'm meeting with a writer for the first time, I will sit down over Zoom and I will ask them, "Hey, tell me about your memoir. Just tell me about your memoir, your process. I just want to hear where you're at." And usually, for the first 10 to 15 minutes, they will be talking to me almost without a break. And I can tell that they are so passionate. You're so passionate about what you're writing. You have had this desire planted on your heart, and you just have so much to say about it. And you're also really stuck. And so, what I'm going to outline for you today is actually a pattern, a trend that I've noticed in the writers that I've worked with. Um, Before we move further, I'm Charlotte. I am a reader. I've been a writer as long as I can remember, and I have been an editor for the past 15 years. In 2020, I started focusing my work specifically with memoir writers. And like I said, I've noticed trends in your writing processes, in the creative blocks that you bring to me. In that 10 to 15 minutes where you are really just talking at me, I am listening really closely and I pick up on so many of the same things. And so I want to pull that into this training today so that you can see where you are getting stuck. And I want to highlight this creative pattern that's specific to memoir writing because I want you to finish. And you are not going to finish if you can't break out of this cycle that you have been stuck in. And that is what I'm really good at helping my private writers do, my private clients. And I'm so excited that I get to bring this pattern, this cycle here to you today. Maybe you've always considered yourself a writer, and now you're really committed to writing that full memoir draft. I'm someone who's always considered myself a writer. A lot of the writers that I work with, writing's actually kind of new relatively. They never thought of themselves as a writer until they had the idea, the spark, the desire to write their story, to write their memoir. And if you're in that place, you're ready to learn, you're ready to get your story out into the world, regardless of how you came into memoir writing, what your experience is. Writers fall into the same pattern all the time. Like, there's a reason that I've created a training about this, because in that 10 to 15 minutes where I'm listening to you, just talk at me about your story and about your writing, like I said, I pick up on the same things. And so there is a pattern, and I'm going to highlight that to you today and give you some tools to break free from that. So this cycle, the memoir breakthrough cycle, is actually 4 specific stages of creativity. So the first stage is what I call first draft energy. And before I get deep into what first draft energy is, what this stage means, and why it's important, I just want to state that if you want to write a memoir, then you are meant to write a memoir. I truly believe that anyone who has that desire, that someone out there needs their story. And like, that is why you keep showing up to your work. You keep showing up because you know that there's someone out there who needs your story and your words. And that is really the heart of first draft energy. So you decide to write, you're so excited to sit down. And when you start writing your memoir, you start with already having all of this primary source material. And what I mean by primary source material is your lived life. You know everything that there is to know about what you have experienced. And so you think that all you need to do now is to show up and write it down. And so that's what you do. And this is a really fun, inspired, motivated stage. When you are feeling inspired and motivated, I want you to show up to write. Like, that is one of the most important times to show up, is when you're actually feeling it. So whenever I'm working with writers, I say, hey, like, just when you are feeling it, when you're getting into that flow, get it out, and then we will refine on the back end. But that is really all that first draft energy is. And truly, first draft energy can carry you all the way to a full first draft. Like, it can get you really far. With memoir manuscripts, typically a full draft is anywhere between 50 and 65,000 words. Sometimes that number is less, sometimes it's more, but that's usually the range of length that we're looking at with a full-length memoir. And first draft energy can get you that far. It's remarkable. It's really fun. And acting on this first draft energy, like I said, it is crucial, because if you're sitting on your bum just thinking about writing your memoir, you can't ever get to the actual edits. Like, if you're watching this and you haven't started your memoir, just get it out onto the page. Just start writing, because you cannot edit a blank page. I can't do my job and help you refine your writing and amplify your story and get it into the hands of readers if you don't have something on the page for me to work with. And so really harnessing that first draft energy, leaning into it, letting it carry you far, it's really important, and it's also really fun. This first draft, it will be really messy, probably messier than you realize. It's supposed to be. Again, we just want words on the page. We want a story to actually be able to start playing with. First draft energy is actually really good at overcoming perfectionism, because that initial surge of purpose, motivation, and inspiration is really, really powerful. And you don't worry so much about making things perfect when you are riding high on that inspiration, on those ideas, and you just want to get it out. So that is stage one. I don't usually meet writers in stage one, because first draft energy can get you really, really far on your own. Your first draft energy will eventually peter out. And this is where you enter stage two. This is where you hit the I have made a huge mistake. This is where you look at those tens of thousands of words that you've written and you think, oh no, what have I done? You kind of panic. You're like a deer in the headlights. And so this is where confusion and overwhelm are going to wash in with full force. One writer described it to me this way: I feel crushed under the weight of all that I have written. Yes, that is how it feels when you are in stage two. You look at everything that you've written and you actually have no idea what to do next. You start to wonder, what do I do now? And this same writer who actually described it to me that way, I feel crushed under the weight of all that I've written. This writer also said to me, I don't know what I don't know. Stage two is where you start to realize that there are things about memoir, things about publishing, things about writing that you don't know yet. And you actually need to know them now. But you don't even know what it is to look for, what to put into your Google search bar, what to search for on YouTube. You know that you're missing something, but because you can't name it, you don't know what help to actually ask for. Cue the dread, confusion, guilt, overwhelm, all of this mental drama that comes with the creative process. So that's stage two. I have made a huge mistake. What do I do now? This is going to put you into stage three. Stage three is the fix it stage. You begin to rewrite. You're like, okay, I have this draft. I'm going to try to think positive thoughts. I wrote this whole thing. Now let's make it better. So you rewrite and you rewrite and you rewrite, and then you keep rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. Writers here in stage three, you are ready to invest time, energy, money into fixing and improving your manuscript. This is the point where actually many writers will hire an editor, because you think that a professional will know how to fix your draft. Like, that is why I have a job. That is why I was trained in this, because there are specific skill sets to editing and publishing that I can help writers with. And so you're like, okay, great, I'm going to go to a professional now. Here's the sneaky truth about editors, though. An editor can only work with what you give them. I can only work with what you actually give me. And if you don't know what you're writing, I can only do so much for you. And this is actually why I am rarely a writer's first experience with an editor. I didn't start out this business planning or expecting to be a writer's second or third editor, but I often meet writers at this stage where they are so frustrated with every other editorial investment that they have made before. They are stuck in that kind of lower realm of emotions and mental states and feelings, that the creativity, that first draft energy, is a long gone memory at this point. You want someone to fix your manuscript. That's what you come to me for. You want them to fix your writing, make your draft publishable. One writer told me one time. And you're so invested in the professional, the publishing professional, the editor, fixing your work, making it better, because you don't trust yourself to know what to do or how to do it. You feel like you've reached as far as you can go on your own, and now you need someone else to take the reins. Professionals will know how to fix this. This is when you tell yourself, I will feel like an author when. And you put how you feel as a creative, as a writer, on an external event. So I'll feel like an author when I finish my memoir, when I find an agent, when I launch my book. And all of that feels really, really far away. This is where some of that imposter syndrome will start to creep in. Maybe you feel a little embarrassed, you feel out of your depth. Here you are, ready to reach out to publishing professionals and get that help, but you still are not actually confident in your own ability. You have lost some of that confidence that came with first draft energy. And like I said, as an editor, I can only work with what you've given me. And there's a reason why, if what I did was strictly editing, I don't think that I would be helping my writers very much. And that's actually why I have realized that I am an editor. I'm also a writing coach. And so that is kind of the work that I do with my writers. Is I'm a writing coach who's also an editor, and we craft this really specific kind of creative clarity that will make it so that then you can communicate with your editor in a way that will let the editor do their job. Because if you handed me your manuscript right now and said, fix it, I could do only so much. Hopefully it would help. But all of those rewrites would still be left on you. So here's what happens most of the time. You're in this fix-it desperation. Maybe you've reached out to an editor who, again, they're doing their job, but they can only work with what you've given them. What this results in is that you actually loop right back into stage 2. I've made a huge mistake. And then you have that overwhelm again, discouragement, guilt, confusion, doubt, imposter syndrome. That compounds again. You're going to become very familiar with that feeling. And then after feeling a bit like an imposter again, you're going to swing back into fix-it mode, and you're going to look for someone else, a different tool. You're going to YouTube yourself to death, trying to find something that will help you fix your memoir and help you actually know what you're doing. And when that doesn't work, you'll cycle right back to, I've made a huge mistake. So do you see the problem here? You keep doing the same things, convincing yourself that this time will be different, but it's not. It's literally the same cycle over and over and over. And I know that you know that I'm right because I know that you've experienced this. This is exactly what my private clients come to me with. This is exactly the loop that they have found themselves in. What I call that looping between I've made a huge mistake and fix it, I call that the rewrite loop. Because you're taking these words and you're just kind of rearranging them, crossing your fingers that it will click and that you'll love it. And one of the side effects of this rewrite loop is that you actually start to, again, you don't trust yourself as much, but you actually don't like what you're writing as much. It's not as much fun as it used to be. That stage 1 first draft energy, it's not fun for you anymore when you're in a rewrite loop. And again, you are rewriting. You're just taking the same words, rearranging them over and over and over, kind of just, it's like throwing spaghetti at the wall, just hoping that something is going to click, something's going to work. That you're going to all of a sudden magically love what it is that you wrote. And truthfully, the rewrite cycle really is just another form of writer's block. And writers don't usually use that term with me, writer's block, because you actually are showing up and you actually are writing, but you think that you're making progress in your memoir draft because you are rearranging all the words. But what is on the page isn't any more clear or refined or polished than it was from when you started. And I say this with so much love because I know that you're working hard. I know that you're working so hard, and you still really care about this project. If you didn't, you would have given up by now. But we have to break out of this rewrite loop. So here you're wondering, well, what now, Charlotte? You're right. I am in a rewrite loop. I get it. What now? Where does this leave me? That's why the memoir breakthrough cycle is 4 stages. So we start off with stage 1, first draft energy. We have stage 2, I've made a huge mistake. Stage 3 is fix it. And stage 4 is what I like to call authorship mode. This is what will snap you out of the rewrite loop. What will snap you out of that loop is creative clarity. So here's what I mean by creative clarity. You know the point of your memoir. You know who you're writing for. You know why that person is going to care about you and what you did with what happened to you. You know, at the top of this training, I shared how whenever I meet with a writer for the first time, I ask them, hey, tell me about your memoir. Tell me about your writing. Tell me about your story. And they will talk at me for 10 to 15 minutes straight, almost consistently. And I sit and I listen. And I've been picking up on this pattern. With creative clarity, I can ask you, hey, tell me about your draft or tell me about your memoir. And you can tell me what it is that you're writing in 30 seconds or less. As a writer, I learned this first as a writer and then as an editor, it is so much harder to write concisely, to be concise and to say things in a short, tight way than it is to say them in a long way. With creative clarity, you can tell me what your memoir is about in 30 seconds or less. Truthfully. Your clarity is going to lead your draft. Your clarity is going to lead to revision. There's a reason why I call the rewrite loop the rewrite loop. Rewriting is not the same as revision. Revision is progression. When you are revising something, you are changing it and you are refining it and you are making it into you're transforming it. Rewriting doesn't do that. Revision does. Your creative clarity, what you are able to pull out when you are in stage 4 of this memoir cycle, that is what will lead your revisions. And then once you do hire a new editor, they can actually do their job because you have clarity on exactly what your draft needs to do. You will know exactly how to communicate to your writer or to your editor. You will know exactly, that's going to show up in your draft. So again, they're going to be able to do their job really well because you are clear on your work. With my private clients, I actually don't go into full editor mode. I will not work with writers who don't have this clarity. I won't edit their work. Like I said, I'm a writing coach who's also an editor. I will go into full editor mode once you have that clarity, because then I know that I can do my job. When you know the point of your memoir, then shaping the story becomes so much more straightforward than it was when you were writing with first draft energy. Again, first draft energy is fantastic. It also is kind of messy and haphazard. Knowing the point of your memoir, writing in your authorship mode, that is what is going to take everything that you wrote in a first draft energy, everything that you muddled around in the rewrite loop, and it's going to make sense of it. When you cultivate this creative clarity, it requires that you consciously step out of that rewrite loop and you pause. The rewrite loop is actually really dependent on you showing up to write. The rewrite loop is really thrives on kind of your frantic energy, on what it is that you're doing. Creative clarity asks you to pause that. So it's a pattern interrupt. That's what you're pulling into your creative process, is this interrupt that tells your mind, we're going to do this differently now. What we have been doing does not work anymore. It hasn't been working. So we're going to pause the rewrites and we're going to get clear first. You're going to let your draft sit for a beat while you do the inner work of figuring out exactly what you're writing, who you're writing for, and why they need to care about it. And that takes a little bit of time. When I work with my private clients, we do not go straight into revisions. And this is sometimes a surprise to them. It is a pattern interrupt. I'm like, hey, we're going to get into your draft in a minute, but first we're going to spend time dialing in your creative clarity. And then once you have that foundation built, it really builds out this fantastic and resilient creative foundation. Once you have that built, then you can move forward in actually crafting the story around its message and purpose. Once you know what you're actually saying, then we get to play with how to say it. Then we get to play with how to reach your reader. Stage 4, this authorship mode, it is not about rewriting. I'll say this again. It's about intentional revision. And intentional revision can only happen once you have this creative clarity. And what happens in this stage 4 authorship mode? What happens in this space is that you actually start to love what you're writing again. You start to feel kind of an echo of that first draft energy, but it's deeper. You become obsessed with your story again. You look at your revisions and you think, oh my gosh, this is actually really good. Those are my favorite emails to get. Like, hey, Charlotte, I finished working on chapter 5. Can you look through it before our next call? I think it's really good. That's what you that's how you feel about your writing. And with this creative clarity locked into place, you're going to have fun doing this work again. You're going to love what it is that you're writing. And again, this creative clarity is even better than first draft energy because it's intentional and it's purposeful. It's so much deeper. It's like when you're dating someone and you have that infatuation and it's so much fun and you're so in love, and then you get married and you're still in love, but then you're married for a while and that love shifts and it is deeper. You have a connection that goes deeper from when you were dating. That's the same thing as first draft energy and authorship mode. It's in the same realm. Authorship mode is in the same realm as first draft energy. It's fun, it's creative, you love what you're writing, but it's deeper because you are so much more clear on what it is that you're doing. So what used to feel hard, once you have creative clarity, what used to feel hard, those endless rewrites, sitting in that feeling where you know that something is off, but you don't know what, you're reading through your work and cringing. What used to feel hard transforms into knowing exactly what to work on in every writing session. It transforms into loving how you're telling your story. And also, it helps you know how to talk about your memoir with other people. You can come to me and tell me in 30 seconds what your memoir is about. Writing becomes fun when you know what you're doing. And you haven't had fun since stage 1 first draft energy. That's what the memoir breakthrough cycle has been preparing you for. Your creative clarity, your authorship mode for your memoir manuscript. I know that you've been stuck in that rewrite loop, but it's all been preparing you for dialing into your personal creative clarity for your story. This has been preparing you for your authorship mode, your stage 4, for your memoir manuscript. Let's talk about the cost of staying stuck in the rewrite loop. So, what are you giving up by staying in this endless cycle of rewrites and frustration? What happens to your writing, to your memoir, if we don't get you out of this. So I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you would feel happy if your writing felt the same way that it does right now in 6 months? What about if you were still working on your memoir in 6, 12 months from now? How many of you would be happy about that? If you opened your memoir manuscript in 6 months and you felt the exact same way about it that you do right now, would that be okay with you? Would you be happy with that? Would you be proud of yourself? Staying stuck in the rewrite loop has a significant cost because you are losing out not just on what's actually happening or not happening with your draft. It's not just the progress that you're losing out on. Staying stuck in the rewrite loop means that you are also losing out on time, energy, confidence, trust in yourself, your inner belief that you really are meant to do this. It's maybe even costing you money if you're still hiring editors to fix it when you don't actually even know what they need to fix. Every time you swing back to, I've made a huge mistake, you are encoding your mind and your nervous system with the belief that I'll never finish. I must not be good at this. Why am I still trying? Every time you loop back to this stage 2, you actually anchor your creativity, your unique creativity, your sparks, your story, but you're anchoring that in confusion. And that confusion, while frustrating and discouraging, actually becomes your comfort zone because it's what becomes familiar to you. Do you see why this is a loop? It's so easy. Just go around and around and around. That is not creative clarity. And this isn't how published authors move. This isn't how they work. This isn't how they create. And this is why it feels like you are working so damn hard for minimal progress in your draft. And it sucks. It is so frustrating to know I've been pouring hours and hours and hours. I've been doing all the things that I'm supposed to be doing, and my draft isn't finished. I still don't like what I'm writing. This is still a complete and utter mess. I still don't know what I don't know. You start drowning in different courses and resources and downloads, because then you kind of feel like, well, then do I know too much? You question everything about what you've been taught about the creative process. You keep outsourcing your story to other publishing professionals who you think will give you the golden ticket. This will be the person who makes this make sense for me. But you have to make your memoir make sense first. That is the only way that an editor will be able to do a good job, is if you can tell me what your story is doing. You've probably been in this state for a while, and it's exhausting. There's a reason why you're sitting here watching this video or listening to it. You're so tired of writing the same way with nothing to show for it. And until you stop trying to fix your draft, fix your memoir with that same energy from stage 2, you're going to stay in rewrites for years, decades. I have worked with multiple writers who have spent a decade or more on their memoir. And yes, memoir takes time. There's a lot of factors that go into why it can take a while to write a memoir. But if it gets to that point where you realize, oh my gosh, I'm in a rewrite loop, it doesn't have to take as long as you think it does. It's because of this rewrite loop. As an editor, I cannot fix your memoir with that problem energy. I cannot fix your memoir with that I've made a huge mistake energy driving it. I cannot do what you want me to do if you're muddled even just a little bit on the impact that your memoir needs to have. So when I work with my private clients, before we get into any revision or editing, like I mentioned earlier, we pause and we refine your creative clarity first. And once we've locked that in, then I get to work my magic as your editor. Then we get to map out revisions, and they truly just fly by. Over the course of 5 years, I've been dialing in this creative clarity process to help you tap back into the heartbeat of your story, to help you remember that first draft energy and mature it a little bit into this clarity. Because the rewrite loop, that clouds your passion for what you're doing. It clouds your spark. The rewrite loop obscures the real power of your memoir. Like I said earlier in this training, if you want to write a memoir, then you're meant to. And the rewrite loop is going to mute that conviction for you. It's going to make you doubt yourself, and it's going to make it so that you never actually reach your readers. You will never reach your readers if you are stuck in the rewrite loop. So right here, right now, this is where you get to step out of the rewrite loop. You can consciously break it and step into stage 4, into your author era, into authorship mode. You get to revise and rework your memoir with your clarity, not my clarity, not your beta reader's clarity, not whatever that one YouTube video said or that airy-fairy thread on that Facebook post and that one memoir writing group said. You get to dial in on your clarity, and that is going to drive every revision, and your revisions will actually start to click in. Your creative clarity is your key to finishing and publishing your memoir. Revising with creative clarity is where everything will start to click for you. You will start to see what's working, what's not working, and why that is. You'll start to see the best ways for you to tell your story, and you'll know which parts of your draft actually do need a rewrite. This is stage 4 authorship, my friend. This is how you step out of that rewrite loop and revise to create a manuscript that you actually want to publish a memoir that you can't stop talking about. This is how you build a readership. What this creative clarity makes possible for you is not just finishing your memoir draft, but it's actually able to take you through into publication. Because an author who doesn't trust themselves, and that's what the rewrite loop is you have lost trust in yourself. An author who doesn't trust themselves isn't an author, they're an aspiring writer. And I am not in the business of aspiring writers. We are in the business of memoir authors who are here to reach their readers. The moment you know what you are actually writing, that is when revision becomes fun. This is when you can look at your manuscript and know how to write your story in a way that not only feels and sounds like you, but one that will land with your readers in a really powerful way. Yes, I am here to remind you that your story matters and is worth writing. I'm also here to show you how to write it in a way that means you'll actually finish it, in a way that will make your publishing path crystal clear. And this doesn't mean that you won't wobble and feel that overwhelm and discouragement from time to time. That is just part of the creative process. We have those ups and downs, but it does mean that you will have an anchor to pull you back into who you are as an author. Once you see this rewrite loop, you can't unsee it. And because you're no longer writing from that rewrite loop, I've made a huge mistake to fix it and back again over and over. You get to break it. You will never see your memoir the same way ever again. You will never be able to not see the rewrite cycle when it tries to edge into your process. You're welcome, and sorry, not sorry. Like really, this is a massive perspective shift in the creative process. You will not be able to change how you see this. When you start writing from this state of creative clarity, from stage 4, authorship, writing feels easy and fun again. Writing with creative clarity means that you're writing exactly what you are meant to be writing. So let's talk about what's next. Where does this creative clarity take you? What happens with stage 4 authorship mode? So remember what I said at the beginning of this training. If you want to write a memoir, you are meant to write a memoir. do not discount or downplay that spark. I know it's really easy to do that. You're meant to do this if you want to do this. There are readers who need your story in your words. There's a very specific reason why God, the universe, placed that desire on your heart. There are readers who need your story in your words, and you are the only one who can write your story in your voice. The only one. If you really want to cultivate this stage 4 authorship, not just consume this training and decide that you need to pause the rewrites, find clarity, because then you'll just end up back in the rewrite loop. You need a structure that can support this shift from the frantic rewrite loop to an author level clarity. It's one thing to watch a training like this and see the patterns. It's another to break it. It's another to break the cycle, break the pattern. And to successfully recode how you work creatively and how you see your story, you need a structure to support that shift. And this is exactly why I created the Memoir Method program. This is an 8-week, very hands-on container where we take everything that I have taught you here in the Memoir Breakthrough and implement it directly into your memoir manuscript, customizing all of this conceptual writing strategy into a strong, clear foundation custom to your memoir draft. We're going to tap into your creative clarity and then form it through your storytelling. This is not just another program where you will take notes, show up to calls, and cross your fingers that this will be the trick that actually finishes your memoir. I will not throw you back into the rewrite loop. I promise you. I will not let you drift back into the rewrite loop. I will not make you think that I'm the only one who can fix your memoir, because you are the only one who can do that. What I will do is I will walk you through the same process that I walk my private clients through to gain their creative clarity. This is the same process that has led to finished and published manuscripts for my clients. After the Memoir Method, you will know not only exactly what you're saying, but you'll know how to say it, and you'll know how to plan out your memoir's publication. You'll know exactly what to look for in an editor and what to communicate to them, whether that's me or someone else. After 8 weeks inside of the Memoir Method, you will come out knowing how to be an author, not just an aspiring writer. This is a workshop style of container where you'll be seen, supported, and guided in real time. I do not want you to ever feel like you have to figure this out by yourself. You will not have to figure out any of this shift from rewrite cycle, rewrite loop, to authorship mode. I'm not just going to throw trainings at you and say, good luck. There's a reason you haven't finished yet. And if I gave you the curriculum and left you to it, you would go right back into the rewrite loop. So instead, inside of the Memoir Method, you will not only learn the tools to create clarity, you get my eyes and input and guidance directly on your work to dial into your creative clarity. And then we will work together to implement that straight into your memoir draft. I will be checking your work, giving very specific feedback to you so that I can keep an eye out for your blind spots. Remember, I don't know what I don't know. I know. That, again, that's why you're here. That's why you look for an editor. That's why you look for a writing coach. That's why you look for these professionals, because I do know what you don't know. And in the Memoir Method, I will be able to see exactly what it is that you don't know, instead of just a list of, here are 5 things that most memoir writers don't know. I'll be able to look at your work and pinpoint your specific blind spots and then help you navigate them so that your creativity is not blocked anymore. You will bring me as deep into your manuscript as I can get, short of the full manuscript evaluation that I do for private clients. You will have very specific work to accomplish each week, so that you get to go deeper than you've ever gone before in your memoir. You're going to be thinking about your story and your reader from a completely different perspective. I've worked with writers who say, oh yeah, I've done work about my reader, and then they go through the Memoir Method and they'll say, wait, I have not done this. This is so much deeper than I've ever gone with anybody else. It's because your creative clarity is essential for you to step into authorship mode, to break that rewrite loop. It's essential for you to publish. Inside of the Memoir method, I will be inside with you with a Google Doc. I'll be giving you feedback, answering questions, making sure that you really are refining a creative clarity specific to your story and voice so that you have your own, oh my gosh, this is it moment. Again, those are my favorite emails to get. Those are my favorite calls to have where my writer's like, wait, I got it. This is it. And all of this in-depth custom mentorship that you'll be getting inside of the Memoir method, this is on top of weekly workshop and co-writing sessions where you bring questions that I'll coach you through, whatever they are. And then with the remaining time we have, we get to turn our mics off and just write. It's a really fun way of being in community with each other. It's a great way for me to be able to coach you. This is a really fantastic opportunity for both feedback, writing coaching, and writing accountability. Remember back in stage 2, where you think, I've made a huge mistake. This is where you realize that you don't know what you don't know. What we do inside of the Memoir method is show you what it is that you don't know. And then we build in those knowledge gaps so that applying your own memoir code, memoir breakthrough blueprint is simple and straightforward. One of the biggest benefits of working with the right professionals is that you get objectivity on your work. I don't know you in any other context, and that is a massive asset for your creative process inside of the Memoir method, to have someone come in with expertise and training to spot in your work what you are too close to see. That's why inside of the Memoir method, I'm running this as a course workshop coaching hybrid, where you'll get my tools and frameworks for writing incredible memoir right alongside my eyes on your work so that you can ensure that you're implementing all of this in the right way. The writers I have walked through this content privately have a completely new relationship to their memoir. They're finishing their memoirs, they're planning out their publication, they're already connecting with their readers. I haven't seen any program like this before, and it is the key to breaking you out of that rewrite loop and into intentional, progressive, and effective revision into that authorship mode. If you're listening to this and loving the concept, but you do want that full manuscript evaluation that I mentioned earlier, I mentioned that briefly. If you want dedicated time with me, not just in a workshop setting, I do have some spots open for new private clients. This is a highly customizable experience where we build out your foundation, this creative clarity, and then we implement it through revision. So if that's something that you want to know more about, DM me on Instagram at the.memoir.coach or email me at hello@bookishedits.com. I will also include a link in the replay of this video so that you can learn more about what a one-on-one client relationship looks like, and if that would be a good fit. I'm so excited for this Memoir Method program because I want you to finish your memoir. I want you to publish it. I want you to actually see this dream of yours realized. I don't want you to think about yourself as an aspiring writer. I want you to think of yourself as an author. I want you to feel that conviction. I want you to trust yourself. I want you to love what you're writing. And that is what the Memoir Method is about. That is what it's designed to do. And it's created from years of me working as a publishing professional, as an editor, years of working with memoir writers who, again, you come to me with the same problems. The reason I've created this training is because I spot this pattern. This is a pattern with every writer. You get to snap out of the rewrite cycle, the rewrite loop. You don't have to stay there anymore. I will include a link to sign up for the next cohort of the Memoir Method. I'll put a link to that in the replay of this. You'll get in your email. You're meant to finish. If you want to write this, you're meant to write it, which also means you're meant to finish it. And the Memoir Method is what will help you snap out of that rewrite cycle. And it is just my honor and my joy. It's so much fun for me to walk you through this. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you inside of that space. Until then, I will see you next time. You can always reach out to me on Instagram or email, and I will help you make sure that you know what is a good fit for you. But until then, I will see you next time.